See, that'll teach you for showing up. Okay, we're on 7.0 of the agenda, and let's see, we've got 2 people for 7.0 and 1 for 12. Oh yes, I forgot. Okay, before we take public comments, prior to you all showing up, we modified the agenda when we adopted it. And between item 6 and item 7, we're opening a little bit earlier, 8.05, the superintendent report, so we can do something a little bit special. So I'll turn it over to Mr. King, and then we'll resume the remainder of the agenda.
So, Mr. Comstock, why don't you come up? So, come on over here. You got to be front and center. This is a big deal. Yeah, absolutely. You know, when I first came to the district, and I came from a small district, I love small districts, and the thing that I love about them is that the interpersonal connections you get with students and parents and staff. When I got to your soccer field and I met you for the first time, you were one of the first people in athletics I met, but I was so impressed with the way you were with our student athletes. And you and I chatted a bit, and it was obvious that you truly embraced the idea of the student athlete. And then I talked to some of the students, and Kayla was one of the first that I got to know a little bit because she was in ASP and also in soccer and so on. And they spoke so highly of you. Your players so respect the work that you do, past and present, because I met some alum too, that fully just cherish you still to this day. And I didn't tell you what a pleasure it's been for me to work with you. In a short time I got to work with you. And we got to work on a couple other things, you know, and chat in my office a bit. And you were always so courteous, so professional, and truly big shoes to fill. So this is from your team. This is not from me, from the district. This is from your team, but they gave it to us to present to you. For those who don't know, this is Terry Comstock's last season, so we wanted to take some time to acknowledge him tonight. I know that our board members may have some comments. I know one in particular does, who has a vested interest in our athletics program. And so I'd like to ask the board if they'd like to share any comments.
Yeah, I'm going to talk for a minute. All right, so Terry's been here for 14 years as a coach, which is just incredible. And through that time, he has built some of the strongest programs for our ladies and our women's athletics program, and particularly girls soccer. And he ran the boys. He got the boys schedule going to get them on, and now we've got a great coach there. But over the years, Terry had, when I was athletic director, he would frequently say, "Tim, this is my last year," and I'd just turn and walk away. And then the next year he said, "Tim, I got to leave." And I said, "Well, you know, I'm not accepting your resignation." Every I'd come up with, and I'd see him, I'd turn around and leave because I didn't want to hear Terry saying he was going to leave, because he produced some of the most scholar athletes in our ladies, the scholar athletic team, the all CIF athletic teams for girls soccer. I'm a little bit jealous because Terry was the only coach that got a team to a championship CIF game, and that was awesome. I almost caught him in 2010. We lost in the semifinals, and I ran my kids at the next practice really long for that. But over the years, Terry has done great things for our ladies. They've gone on to be professionals and from variety of nursing and lots of careers. That Terry's whole respect about character, integrity is what athletics is about at Vasquez. And it was something we never had to worry about. His daughter started, and then she went on, and then Terry picked up the mantle and ran with it for 14 years. And Terry, Superintendent King came up with a gold star, a gold coin, and a stay gold moment. And I'm going to present you with a gold coin. I'm very appreciative. And look on the back side of the coin because your resignation's been rescinded.
Yeah, no.
Thanks, Terry. I appreciate it.
Raise your hand if manager on the team, just to make sure, who's played for, okay. So just to, they're all right. You know, this is how much they cared about you, wanted to do this though, is that Yolanda and I have been talking about this throughout the year, you know, when we're gonna do it and so on, but then I think it was Night of the Stars, Melina?
Yeah.
Night of the Stars, and I said, you know, I gotta get one of the players to help me get this out there. And so Melina she didn't even hesitate.
That's awesome.
And she actually called our office and said, I hope you guys didn't forget to recognize the coach. But your team just truly admires and loves the work you do. So thank you.
Hey, I would like to say thank you to the board for allowing me to coach all these years. It's, as a walk-on coach, I know I'm limited year to year and so forth, and I appreciate the kind words and so forth, and allowing me the time. It's the players that kept me coming back every year, and it's a great bunch of kids down here, and you talk about a small school environment, and that's what I really liked about it. I think I was offered to coach at other bigger schools, and I like the small school, and the parents is what really is awesome too. Their help and volunteer is what helps a lot too. So, but thank you.
Coach Terry, never no drama with you, just a lot of trophies. A lot of trophies. And all I was paying attention to was soccer, so soccer, going to this tournament, soccer, going to state, I thought, well, that's what we all do, but apparently not, so. Thank you, Terry.
You're welcome. Thank you.
So you will be back next year.
I've already talked to a gal she's a teacher at High Desert, and she's gonna fill in, and she'll do very well. And
Perfect.
I told her I'm not moving out of the country. I'll go down. There you go.
We appreciate you so much. I was very impressed when I went to the Night of the Stars and saw how many scholar athletes we had. So
12 out of 15.
thank you so
That's
much
awesome.
for doing that. It's great. You know, I've been a member of the committee for a long time, and I appreciate how much work it is and how much. But if you want to get a new trophy, I'll personally pay for the new one. So we can change the years. But thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I'll just say briefly, I met you because my daughter had never played soccer before, got to high school.
Yeah.
And I think she played one year, and it wasn't her thing, but the fact that Terry makes people feel comfortable, even students who don't necessarily have a background, opens doors for all students. And that's what I noticed with my own daughter and Tuva, our foreign exchange student. And so that's a real skill to make people who, especially in a competitive high school environment, who don't necessarily have the skills, feel welcome enough to want to play and learn and put themselves out there. And I appreciate the fact that you do that so well.
Thank you.
Says a lot, you can get some kids to come out during the summer.
I know.
Thank you, sir.
And one final story here, real quick. So Terry came and said, Tim, could you come up and announce the soccer game? And I said, yeah, that'd be a great idea. We'll run the clock, we'll do everything. So I'm up in the press box and I'm going, why are they going backwards? They're going that way. I had no clue what was the strategy behind soccer, and I finally got around to doing it. And then I'm up there and I got the PA and I'm going, goal! Coach, it didn't even hit the side of the net, it didn't go in. And I was, okay, I gotta get some better eyes.
If I may say real quick, because Tim was a football coach and so forth, and as he said, the year that we went to the championship game, he came out to announce and just fell in love with soccer and so forth. And Michaela, the little one here, my assistant coach, was on that team that year in 2009. And she got the ball in our defensive end, started dribbling, and all I hear is Tim up in the booth going, and there goes Michaela. She's crossing the 25. She's now. I just kind of turn around and look up at the. Really?
We want to get a picture. You know, why don't we have the board, you know, so let's get a group picture.
And now we'll return to the nominal agenda flow.
Yes.
Okay. All right, so now the yellow cards. And let's see, we've got 2 people with yellow cards that don't have an let's see, put them in alphabetical order. Okay, D, you've got one for section 7.0, which is where we are now. Ms. Holland. Should have been more formal, I apologize. And please be sure to state your name for the record.
Dee Holland. This will never be an agenda item, so you can respond. The Brown Act does not preclude you from this, okay? And I really, really would seriously like to hear your responses. Is there anything the community can say that would sway you to support the community as opposed to the superintendent? I understand that you hired him to do a job, but you're voted in to represent the community, not the admin. If you give lip service to our protests and do nothing, then why are you here? What recourse do we have, other than recalling you, to get you to listen to us? The last meeting proved that the board doesn't listen to the community. You said thank you to us and ignored what we said. And if this continues, you won't have to worry about a lawn because you won't have any students to teach. It angers us to hear it is their right to go to someplace else. That's true, but it's your duty to make sure that they come here and they stay. And if you're not going to listen to the community, they're not going to stay. So is there anything that we as a community can say to you that would sway you to support us? That's a question I have for each one of you.
Thank you, Ms. Holland. Ms. Martin? Would you state your name for the record? And there's 3 minutes. Thank you.
Okay. My name is Angie Martin. I am a parent of 2 young men in our district and our president of Acton. I'm beginning my 2nd year as the president of Vasquez PTSO. During this past year, I've had the opportunity to be involved in many school and district events, all of which has made me proud to be a part of the school district, especially recently with being a part of the strategic planning meeting. It was great that everyone was able to communicate their views in a comfortable setting. We all felt that we truly had a stake in the direction that the district is going. I commend the district for including such a broad spectrum of people, from community members to high school students, which their input was invaluable. Thank you for doing that. This past year has also been an honor to serve alongside so many wonderful ladies in PTSO. No one person is more important than another, and nothing would happen without the team effort of us all supporting each other. So I wanted to publicly thank all the dedicated members who show up to meetings and help with events, sometimes arriving before the sun comes up or staying late until the night. So thank you for all you do, and I'm looking for another great year of making a difference. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you very much. And that brings us to 8.01, AATA representative.
Not here today.
Okay. CSCA representative, 8.02.
I'm here, thank you very much for all the help you've given us and really appreciate your time. Thank you. And thank you, Mr. King, for inviting us for the video meeting and everything you had shared with us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you for the hard work you're doing. And thank you, all of you. Have a great summer.
Thank you. You too. Thank you. .03 Superintendent Safety Report, Mr. King.
So I think I did already share with you how the upcoming Antelope Valley Safety meeting that's kind of an Antelope Valley, Santa Maria Valley group that meets together to share ideas about safety, share ideas about communication, what to do for crisis prevention in the schools, and so we'll be attending that meeting. I think I also shared with you about the 6 AED devices that are on order that we're installing at the school sites, and that some are being ordered that are tailored to smaller children to make that we're prepared as well for that. And again, that law goes into effect July 1st, 2019. The Raptor system that we've been talking about, we are moving forward with that. I think Ms. David had a conversation with Raptor, and they've been gracious enough to essentially invoice us after July 1st into the new fiscal year, but we're going to begin training on it over the summer. Yolanda's going to be working with the 3 site secretaries and then Ms. Amy Frank from the district office so that we can implement that system. And for those who haven't been to the board meetings, that's a system that allows us to track and monitor guests to our district as well as employees and parents and so on. So it's really going to help us with the security within our school district. And that's it for the safety report.
Thank you, Mr. King. And the strategic plan report, 8.04.
So, per the board's request, we've added 8.4 to the agenda. And so the next steps is that, as Ms. Martin spoke about it, we will take the ideas that were generated by that group, the stakeholders group from the strategic plan. It's called the Gold Standard. That plan will be written by a committee at the district office. It will be facilitated by Doug Demeen, who also facilitated the process. And then that document will be shared with all of the members of the stakeholders committee. So just in this room, I was just looking around the room, we have, Angie Martin's here, Lee Jennings is here, Tom Castan, Tracy Castan, Lillian Smith, Kelly Jensen. And so I want to make sure I didn't miss anybody else who's in the room, but Yolanda, sorry, and Ms. T. So Yolanda and Ms. T. We had, just in this room alone, you look at the active participation of people that regularly come to board meetings, but also, PTSO president, say, do it all chef. but really we have tremendous people that support efforts like this. And so the idea is that this is not to become a dust collector or something that just gets done and, one and done. It's to become a working document that kind of drives the district direction. So towards that end, we're getting it written over the summer, shared with the stakeholders over the summer, and then it will drive the administrative retreat in August so that we can begin making our plans. So when we sit around as administrators and decide, what's going to be our mission, our vision for the upcoming school year, how does it apply to me as Ernesto Moore, as supervisor of maintenance and operations facilities? How does it apply to me as the nutrition services, food services director? How does it apply to me in transportation? So we're taking that plan and seeing how it drives and motivates us towards the common goal of the district vision. So that's where we're at currently with the gold standard.
Thank you. Anything further on the superintendent report, which we had started up earlier with Mr. Comstock's recognition?
Yeah, I have a few things to go over. So the first thing is I want to share a letter with the board that Tom Castan shared with me on behalf of the Acton Town Council. And I know, Tom, I will not do the letter justice. I did read it today. It's quite lengthy. I'm going to share it with the board. Did you write this with, did you write this?
Jackie Ayers is our correspondence secretary.
Okay.
But, it is, she does most of the work and we comment.
So it is an extremely well-written, thorough document that details the sustainability plan that the county is proposing through the CBO. Is it CBO, the community?
It's the
community-based organization, which is supposed to be an outreach to communities like Acton when they're talking about developing residential and commercial property. There really has not been, according to this document, significant outreach to the Acton community. So Tom Castan shared this letter with me. I think as a board, we can discuss it and we can talk about how we can support. We're willing to hear, Acton Town Council's thoughts on it, and perhaps I could report back to you on any thoughts that were garnered out of our discussion. So I know I don't expect you to read it tonight. It's lengthy, but
Can I make a quick comment?
absolutely.
So, what I'd love to see is you guys take a look at this, because basically what the county is saying is that they're gonna curtail development in this area completely by 2035. And if there's no development here, I don't think we're gonna have a school district here. So the school district being a state county entity, I'd love for you guys to look at this, try to understand a little bit. The actual plan is 200 pages, but we kind of brought it down into about 5 or 6. And look at where this maybe can damage our district and damage the future for our kids. And I'd love if you guys could, as a school district and as a board, come up and move to at least make a position on this, and hopefully work with the county, give the county feedback on what you think in this plan is going to hurt the district, because that's.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I would say that under, like we do with Safe Routes Back to School, I would just suggest that maybe at the next couple of meetings, that we just have a sub-tab that kind of says, is there anything to talk about here, what do we need to do? That way it keeps it fresh on our minds.
Good thought.
Good, Tom?
Yeah, thank you.
8.06, submissions? Anything?
Well, I'm not done with superintendent.
Oh, sorry.
Just a few more things. So we, as promised to the board, we have a calendar of events that you have in front of you, I think. So that will continue to be a working document, but we're trying to get you the items as early as possible. I know Ms. Jensen plans her year well in advance because of what her job entails as director. I know many of you do the same. Tim probably has the most flexible schedule of all of us, but the calendar hopefully helps for you to agendize even when you're going out to your sites, Tim, on your observations and so on. So hopefully you find the calendar of events helpful. I want to talk about facilities because we don't have a new construction bullet anymore, so I just added facilities to my own notes. But I also think it's a good time for Lynn to kind of gather her thoughts as I talk about facilities, because we're going to connect Ernesto Mora to this facilities piece a little bit as well. So some of the facilities updates are, we're working with the project manager and architect to close out phase 3 on VHS and negotiating terms of settlement for the closeout. At Acton campus, the architect has approval for the back check. One of the DSA reviews is signed off. We still need to do a visit with the folks from DSA. That's the final step for them to come out to Acton before it's completely signed off on, and we can remove the fence and replace it with the picket fence. Metal Arc portable will be removed. This will save $700 per month. Proposition 39. The district sent contractor notice to proceed with the HVACs, so the air conditioning systems will begin to be replaced with Proposition 39 funding. Summer projects, which you're approving all of these on your consent agenda item tonight. I think it's 9.8 and 9.16. But asphalt at Metal Arc, Acton, AADUSD, and High Desert campuses. Carpeting at Metal Arc and High Desert. Grass in the quad area, which will be fantastic at the middle school. Roof repairs at all 4 sites. Playground surface at Metal Arc. Fire sprinkler repair at Metal Arc. Fire hydrant intact repair at High Desert. Agua Dulce campus furniture will be removed and transferred to the Acton campus for storage. And then Ernesto's developed a nice plan for deep cleaning and detailing at all of our school sites. With that, I'm going to just momentarily turn over my comments to Ms. David to share some thoughts.
Yeah, Ernesto, can you come up here? I'm gonna use my teacher voice because I want to be back behind there for a minute. Come here. So, the other day, Dr. Cooper shared with me some feedback that he had received from one of our charter partners regarding Ernesto's interaction with the charter. And I don't know that I could have said any better, so I'm going to read to you feedback from somebody completely unfamiliar with him before this year. They said that Ernesto has a true sense of urgency. He's attentive. He makes one feel that he is there for you. He's accommodating regardless of the concern, and has excellent customer service. And they wanted to express this because normally when you hear from somebody, it's always bad news. When I first had the privilege of working with Ernesto as a site administrator, I had the same feeling. If there was something, he would come and get it done immediately. He was never too busy, and he always is thinking of what's good for kids and staff safety. I shared with him when I first came into this position that my criteria, kind of summing up what I'm looking for in someone who works with me, is someone who, if I said, if your mom, if your children, your wife stopped by unexpectedly at work, would you be proud of the work you were doing? Would it be spotless? Would it be something that you'd want to show off? And every day he does that. And we can stretch our dollars, because I've known, you guys think I'm cheap? frugal. He comes with me and he says, Miss Lynn, I found a better deal. I found a vendor that can give us a better deal for the same quality. He's constantly searching for that. So Ernesto, I want to thank you for the work you do, and so you would be my Stay Gold choice for now. So, thank you for everything you do. And he has the student growth mindset, because how many years in the district?
13 years.
And, you know, grew up through us. So this is an example of when you take your job seriously. So thank you guys for recognizing.
Thank you.
Oh,
Thanks, partner.
I got it.
Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3. Oops, you closed your eyes.
he's shy.
I don't think so. Great, thank you.
So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, congratulations, Mr. Mora, and thank you, Ms. David, for recognizing our outstanding employees, our team. So, a couple more comments. One is on, we're submitting an application with the California School Board Association. For those who don't know, our board did 40 hours of training with them this past school year. They're a tremendous assistance in helping boards do a better job, or a more efficient job, proficient job with governance, and they work with superintendents as well. But the other thing they do is they recognize school districts for the good work that they're doing, and they have an annual conference where they do that act. So there's 2 applications we're putting in for. One is the ability to be able to perform at the next conference, which is in December of 2019 in San Diego. And so Larry Rowland has graciously agreed to allow us to submit his name along with this, the group of students that does handbells, so that they could possibly be performing in December. So we submitted that out. We are submitting that application before July 12th, the deadline, and we look forward to hearing the results of that. The second one, which we're about to show the video for this application process, is for the senior walk. So the other thing they want to recognize is school districts that can produce programs that are replicable and affordable and sustainable. And to that end, we submitted the Stay Gold Senior Walk, which we've done for 2 consecutive years. We think districts throughout the country could do this. We think it is sustainable. It's very low cost. And so you're going to see the video that goes towards that application. And I see Ms. Van Ornum's here tonight. And so she's helped with these videos, but there's also a video that she helped produce that Ms. Van Ornum we're going to show in August at our first board meeting when we're back. But I wanted to thank you while you're here for making that, and it's a great video again, so thank you for that. So Scott Marvel put this video together for the application.
The number one goal of every school district in California is to make sure that every student graduates from high school. 2 years ago, we created an opportunity for our elementary and middle school students to be part of the celebration of our high school seniors graduation experience. We created this senior walk to provide our students, teachers, and parents with a once-in-a-lifetime moment that allows all of us to feel good about the thousands of hours of hard work and dedication that were put in by all of us to get these students to this important milestone. We think that this senior walk is a fantastic learning experience that every school district in California should provide for their students. The high school graduation ceremony is a huge moment for the students who do the work required to receive their diploma, but we think our senior walk allows all of our students to feel the thrill and excitement that students get when they graduate. We also feel that this event provides our hardworking teachers, who are instrumental in helping our seniors get to this point, the opportunity to feel a sense of accomplishment and pride that only a walk like this can provide. The Senior Walk helps our students be mindful of how wonderful it is to graduate from high school. We think senior walks are a wonderful way to keep students feeling positive and motivated to do the work it takes to walk the line and get a high school diploma.
Tell me like your immediate emotions, immediate thoughts, just in terms of doing this. Do we do it again? Did you think it was a good experience? What are some of your thoughts?
Cute. I'm surprised you remember that. Yeah.
You gotta see your old teachers, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Was it worth the time?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Did you guys love it?
Yeah. Because they like actually remembered you and stuff, not like congratulations and then say your name and stuff. So I thought that was cool.
Good morning. We're here for our senior walk, and who's graduating for you?
Emily Main, my oldest child.
Emily Main. And so, how did you feel about the senior walk and watching her walk at the elementary now here?
I loved it. I loved seeing the little kids' faces light up. I loved the interaction between the graduating seniors and the little kids, and even the teachers, seeing their students that have progressed and moved on and are graduating. The teachers were hugging them and being emotional. Very moving.
Is it something you think we should do in the future, like as a tradition?
Absolutely 100% yes.
We just watched the potential high school graduates. Any day now they're going to be graduates. Do a walk around High Desert. It was unbelievably motivating, great for these kids to see. And it's just so nice because even though I don't have somebody graduating this year, it's such a small town and small school, and I literally know so many of the kids, as do all of us here. And it was just a pleasure, and I wish them all the best of luck always.
And what do you think about it? Do you like it?
I love it because I can see my kids. I got all kinds of hugs today. All of them. Misty, you're the best. Misty, no trouble. So I love it. I love it to see them since kindergarten and graduating tomorrow.
And I saw a lot of the students hugging you. How did that feel?
I feel great. It's my baby. I raised them since kindergarten. They went with me at Middle Arc, and I came here with them, and now they graduated. It's fantastic feeling.
This is where it all started for our kids. My son, Nico, all three of my children have gone to school and made it through elementary school, junior high, and high school here in Acton. And it's bittersweet. This is my last child, so it's kind of a sad thing, but it's great. It's great. This community is great, and the fact that they got to walk through elementary school and junior high school, which is where this all started for them, is a wonderful, wonderful thing that they do. Make me cry. And then hearing the graduation song too was like, oh my goodness, too much. But they worked hard and they made it.
I think this is a wonderful experience. This is what I love most about our community, is things like this.
Really good for our kids to see what's going on and what they have in front of them, and it's something good for the seniors to come back and make connections with the younger kids and with their teachers out here. So it's just a really neat experience. I really appreciate it. I've been getting chills. I get chills and I start tearing up. It's neat to see them growing up and ready to go out into the world.
So we'll see what happens. We'll keep you posted. But that concludes my comments. Everyone have a great summer off if you're a teacher. If you're a 10 or 11 month employee, enjoy your time off. If you're a year-round employee, make sure you take some time off. And if you're parents, I know sometimes you're looking forward to the first day of school, the first day of summer, but in either case, enjoy your families, enjoy your children. And for the board, we're kind of going into a little bit of a dark season in July. So enjoy your break from some board work. And appreciate all of the work you did this year. It's a lot of work for the board.
Thank you. How about 8.06, submissions?
We have no submissions tonight.
Okay, board member comments is 8.07. We'll start in the table.
Well, real brief, I just want to congratulate all the staff, the teachers, and the students for a successful school year. And to Ernesto and his crew getting ready, they got a lot of work to do over the summer, and You've always done a great job for the last years. I don't see anything different now. And I appreciate you keep up the good work and extend that hard work and appreciation to your crew. Thanks.
You're welcome. Mr. Falsgrove?
I want everybody to know that we gave Maria Romano a gold coin. She was recommended for this by the teachers, the fifth grade teachers that successfully transitioned the Meadowlark fifth grade to High Desert. I very much appreciate that. They were very complimentary about the work that she does. We called her in the first day, or the first day that Ms. Barnes returned to the high school. She wasn't sure why she was in the office. I lost the bet that I could make her cry, but I think she was very happy. For those of you that are making donations to the district, we very much appreciate your support. We've had some changes in how things are, the bookkeeping goes and things like that. We're getting all those ironed out, but we appreciate your donations. We know that you don't wait to make donations until we know that there's a board meeting and all that kind of thing. So we appreciate your patience, but our teams and our different student groups very much appreciate your support. I want to thank the employees that are providing ESY students or ESY sessions to the SPED students, and those staff that support and charter people that support summer school, especially recovery programs. To the facilities people, I was worried that at work that I'm gonna have a 100-year windstorm and I'm gonna have $80,000 a day crews in town. So I like the way that you saved up the money until the schools are empty, you're not disrupting the schools, and that you're able to, this is the first time I've ever seen all the bids listed out in the agenda. Some of them are far below the superintendent's purchasing limits, but that's okay. I like to see what they are. I like to see that the work is being spread around, and I like it that you held on to your money till the danger passed and the new money is coming in. So I very much appreciate the work you do. Ernesto, I think you're a success story in that a couple years ago, the structure of the admin office was very different. It was quite a bit heavier, and I think you moving up into supervisory capacity, having Mr. Arona around, I think his role has been decreasing, and the dependency has been decreasing. I think that your development and development of your team has been excellent. I think that lining up facilities with finance is a no-brainer, so I very much agree with Lynn's choice in giving you the coin. Looking forward, do you remember when you started school and it was your first day, or you moved and you went to a new school and you felt like you were all alone? Can you remember that? I mean, for some of us, it's been a very, very long time. But, so, but I just want to remind you, there's going to be new kids coming into school. People move into town. Be the friendly face that's accepting the person that's coming in, whether you're a teacher, a staff member, or another student, because it makes a difference. No one wants to feel alone. Our community is really about acceptance, and our brand needs to be unity, okay? So I very much appreciate that. Angie, I very much appreciate your comments tonight. I appreciate the work that you guys did. What I noticed this year is you guys seem to be in a lot of different places, and not in your silo at Vasquez and being tribal and territorial. You guys were all over the place. I would see you everywhere. Where I work, they have a program called the Ambassador Program, and they work the business triangle where the tourists are coming in, and that's where the money comes into town, and that's where the experience needs to be. Now, them being there encourages people to be civil, but it also, they're kind of, they help people that are lost. They kind of show people and answer some questions. But I think you guys are the ambassadors to our school district. You're the parents that have been around raising the kids the longest. You see the most positive things about our district, and you support us in ways that really, really, I think you're the key to our brand. If I were going to make changes, the kind of changes I want, I would like to be able to see that the 3 PTO groups or the parent groups at the sites at least get together and have some liaison that comes in and speaks for all of you, because I think there's something very strong about making a smooth transition between sites, but I think that you guys do great work. I think you're very important to where we need to go. And I think that I'm really excited about what you guys are gonna do with the Fall Festival this year. I'm hoping that you'll do something wonderful that will draw in 1 million people.
No pressure.
No pressure. Excuse me, I've not yielded the floor yet. That sets the tone for my next one. Hey, it's been a wild couple of years with me up here about charter, so, hey, what's coming this year is called, I'm gonna be keeping my eye open for conflict of interest a lot, so don't come in here and sell me your charter school for dummies, how to do oversight package, and then loop back around a few years later, and then be somebody that's, as an employee of the district, as a consultant of the district, is now over here pulling money off the top end of the charters that you approve. So I'm gonna keep an eye on that, so watch for that. Guys, great work this year. Miss T, that was awesome up there. The kids really love you. They really do.
She's got great basketball skills.
One more time, I am not done yet.
It's like a fine wine.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I'm done.
Have some caffeine.
I wish you guys learned to get along.
I know. I'm gonna make mine brief, but, I wish everyone a happy summer and a happy 4th of July. Ernesto, as I'm looking over the agenda tonight and studying all the materials, you're gonna be super busy. Half the stuff on here that we're gonna be approving, so, you deserve that vote, kind of happy to see you get that, so thank you to the state for recognizing your hard work. Thanks to the Costin family for, Tom, for getting this to us. I appreciate the condensed version, but I appreciate all you do and keeping us in the loop, so I appreciate that. Great work, Angie, and of course Lee, Lee's everywhere, doing everything, so we appreciate all the work you've done. I'm just at awe at how much work you guys do. You guys are doing so many events, and I'm so proud of our community. I kind of got like teary-eyed coming up to the board meeting and seeing I haven't been here for the 4th of July for a couple of years because my kids moved out of state, but boy, I think you're late if you haven't claimed your territory out there. People don't, no one's messing around. I mean, of course I've been to the parade, but I haven't been for a few years since my kids left. But
Every year gets earlier.
yeah, earlier and earlier.
Tailgates.
I almost just want to go put something out there just in case my flight gets canceled. Just have a safe summer. Look forward to all the great work we're going to do again next year. And so I think our district has a lot to be proud of. So thank you so much for all you guys for what you do.
And as we close the book on another school year, I thank the staff. Last board meeting. So this boarding meeting, I would like to take the opportunity to thank Miss Martin and Miss Jennings, and Mr. Mann, and Miss Holland, and Mr. Costin, Mrs. Costin, all the folks who come out. It's not always an easy job. We hear the stuff where we can improve, but it's also nice to hear where maybe we're doing okay, by the people that are our friends and neighbors that we serve. In Mrs. Martin's case, she's my neighbor, and since you came to town, besides having wonderful children that I trust my house to when I'm gone, you don't drive right in, and it's people like that adopt town, Acton and Agua Dulce, and make it their own and make it better. And so to all of you people, thank you very much for everything you do, and thank you. And that goes to people who have kind words, but also suggestions for improvement, because there's always room for improvement. So thank you all of you. So that's that piece. The second piece is today I received a letter from Mr. Porter announcing his resignation from the board effective June 30th. I'd like to say that I worked with Mr. Porter for the whole 6 years I've been on the board, and over those years I found him to be a very, he mentored me in the beginning, he and Mr. Vistasso, a very thoughtful and oftentimes a very articulate and eloquent voice on the board. I appreciated working with him. I think he's got a tremendous legacy, the high school. There's two board members, me and Mr. Porter until tonight, serving on the board who were directly involved in that. He even longer than I was. And so I'll miss his presence. I hope he takes care of himself and his business. And I've been in communication with him over the last few months, and I think he agrees that you know, it's the community's spot, and we need representation on the board. And so he's willing to open up that space so that we can find a way to fill it, so that we have full representation of the community. We don't have an empty chair. So I thank him for that. That's very gracious of him as he deals with some changes in his life. So that's on that. And so later, under new agenda items, I'll suggest that when we come back, we address some of the options for filling the empty seat, or that the seat that will be empty come the 30th of this month. And that's all I have for my comments. So moving on to 9.01, the consent agenda. We will be, first let's have a motion to move it in. Okay, that's Tim Jorgensen, I'll second it. Okay, now that it's moved in, we will be, assuming it's meets with the approval of the rest of the board, approving items 9.1 through 9.21 with the notation that item, let me check my notes, 9.05 has been modified to add an additional hire in the personnel report backup. So there's one more hire than what was originally posted. Correct. And so therefore that's a modification. Any discussion on items 9.1 through 9.21 before we vote on them?
I have one question about 904, the warrant register. I don't need it pulled, I just need a confirmation that I'm gonna reference 0039 or 0039386 is the remedy to a finding or recommendation from an audit.
So,
which page is that on? Sorry.
Page 9.
That's correct.
Thank you, I'm good.
Any other comments or questions on the consent agenda? I have one, I'll wait till you guys are all done.
But we're pulling for 905 as separate.
No, we're gonna keep it in, I've just modified it.
Okay.
To include that extra hire, is that
The question I had about that is I've always been interested that we're doing exit interviews with the employees that resign.
We are. Some of them have already left, so we need to follow up with a phone call, but we will.
Thank you. I'm good, Mike.
Ms. Jensen? Okay, I've got one question for Ernesto and or Ms. David. On the flooring replacement at Meadowlark, I noticed that at High Desert, we're replacing carpet with carpet in the locations where we're replacing pursuant to the contracts. In Meadowlark, it looks like the entryway and some of the administrative offices are turning from carpet, which badly needs replacing, to tile material, is that right?
Yes.
Okay, and when you guys made that decision, was it in consultation with the administration there?
Yes.
And did you consider the fact that maybe it'll sound different? Because carpet does tend to damp noise.
Yes, the principal was there when I talked to her.
All right, and did it save a significant amount of funding to do carpet versus the linoleum, or is it the rate?
Carpet is actually a little bit cheaper. One of the other factors that is a deciding factor in making a conversion in classrooms and in the hallway, for one, it's the durability and how long it will last, given the fact that it could
It costs
potentially be a
more
long time.
initially, but lasts longer.
Yes. The other thing is that for students who have asthma or allergies, hard flooring is actually a better choice, so that as we have a lot of students, we actually have even a few students in the district who have cystic fibrosis. So, it's not based on only a few students, but doctors' recommendations oftentimes when there is asthma or allergies is that hard flooring is put down because it doesn't collect the dust and can't really get mold.
By that discussion though, where are we replacing the carpet at High Desert, where we're replacing with carpet? I'm just wondering how that, logic plays out at the other campus.
Yeah, actually, at High Desert, it is gonna be VCT as well.
It is?
Yeah.
Okay, I must have misread the contract that was in there.
There is one room that was gonna be carpet, but in the discussions with administration, the decision is to make it uniform.
Okay.
So we'll be replacing there, for certain places, there will still be carpet, probably the library, but as we can, as much as we can, we're gonna replace this VCT because it's easier to keep clean and use a high-speed burnisher to keep it shiny, but also it prevents any allergens from getting in there.
Okay.
And it is durable.
Yeah, I was,
Especially given
I
the
noticed the difference between the two schools, and I was just curious, what the logic differences was, but it turns out that High Desert is also getting the tile. And I had asked earlier about what to do, because tile can get slippery when it's wet. I did that by email, and you guys assured me that you thought about that. There'll be carpet runners such that in the wet weather, there's not an inadvertent safety hazard introduced. Okay, that was my question. Okay. All right, so with that, call the question on the consent agenda. Aye. Okay. That is, I got lots of pages tonight, folks, bear with me. Okay, that is a 4-0-1 vote to approve the consent agenda as modified, as we mentioned, for the additional hire and then that brings us on to .01, the personnel report. The subject is item 10.01, resolution number 18-19.24, authorization to teach outside credential, Ed Code 44-258.3. I'll move this in. Second? Any discussion?
So, on 10.1 and 10.2, Dr. Cooper's here to share, but essentially, 10.1 has to do with experience. So the board has the authorization to allow folks to teach in the areas that you'll see in the names associated with those areas. In this case, particularly electives, they have experience in that elective area. This allows them to teach that. In 10.2, it's talking about units. There's a certain amount of college level units, credits that one can acquire, and if you acquire enough, then that particular ed code allows teachers with board authorization to teach in that subject area, which generally applies more to one of the 4 core subject areas because units are required.
I'll just note that, by the way, since we do have such good participation, at the end of the year, these last 2 meetings of the year, we do a ton of infrastructure and preparations for the next school year. And so we're just gonna ratchet down a list of items that are all about putting the infrastructure in place for next school year to do business. And so what we are just talking about here, which is the authorizations to teach outside credential, these are folks that we've had teaching outside their nominal credentials for years. And this is all part of making sure that they can do so for the next year so we can get our electives. At a small district, we don't have specialized teachers for every elective choice, and so many of our teachers, although on paper they're teaching outside their credential, they're certainly experienced in teaching those electives and have for years, and that's how we were able to, with a small staff, offer a wide range of electives. Did I say that?
Well said, yep.
And it's kind of ironic, because one of the, am I allowed to use a name?
Yeah, that's probably.
One of the folks on 10.2, which we'll get to, is Dr. Shoddy, who is a PhD and a published author in biochemical work, biochemical engineering. And we're blessed to have her here. And she's teaching outside for her credential, even though she's a PhD and a credentialed teacher, and doing and is a published researcher in biochemical engineering. So go figure. But that's that's the kind of thing that you're going to have to do.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's all I have for this one. Anybody else? Good. Call the question?
Aye.
Aye, that's a 4-0-1. Okay, 10.02, resolution 18.19.25, authorization to teach outside credential, Ed Code 44263. I'll move that in.
I'll second.
Okay, same kind of story. Anybody have any questions?
And this is just the confirmation to say that we've made an attempt, and these are the teachers that have experience so that they can work in those areas of life.
10-1 was for experience, and 10-2 is for credits. So they have credits either in their major or minor of their subject area that allows them with board authorization to teach that subject matter.
Call the question?
Aye.
Aye. 401. Okay. Item 10.03, declaration of need for fully qualified educators. I'll move that in. Second?
Second.
Tim Jorgensen.
So the only comment here is that Dr. Cooper's made this recommendation for so many. We estimate the number of waivers that we may need where we're gonna have a difficult time to recruit. So to Mr. Jorgensen's point, if we go out for so many multiple subject teacher credentialed, multiple subject credentialed teachers, and we think we're not gonna be able to find fully credentialed teachers, this allows us, based on these estimates, to hire teachers that are not fully credentialed. And so we're asking the board for authorization to proceed and go ahead with that.
They're all credentialed teachers, not necessarily fully credentialed in a particular area that they might teach, analogous to the previous stuff.
Correct, except these people aren't hired yet.
Right.
We're estimating for the future, 3 multiple subject, 3 single subject, and 3 in special education.
They will be fully credentialed teachers.
If they're not, those are the
Let
estimates.
me rephrase.
Yeah.
They'll be credentialed educators.
Yes.
Not
Yes.
necessarily in the particular area. They might be credentialed in an adjacent area, but they'll be credentialed teachers.
They may not have a full credential in the area that they're applying for. They may not even have a full credential in anything. But they have a preliminary credential, or we may hire them as an intern because we've gone out and through our recruitment selection process, weren't able to attract a full candidate pool.
In my time here, we've actually never hired a non-credentialed teacher in my 6 years. This allows us to do that.
We actually have.
We have?
You have.
I have. Who have?
Yeah, we have somebody right now who doesn't have a full credential, but because of that particular area and that need, they're working on it. They're going to obtain it, but it's very similar.
My, how awkward. Is this, is the easy way to say this that we don't have 24.73 kids sitting in the classroom wondering where their teacher is the first day of school?
Correct.
That's perfect, thank you.
Hey, thanks for saving me. Call the question.
Aye.
All right. I thought I knew the answer to that one. That was wrong. 11.01, High Desert School Handbook 2019-2020 draft. This is a motion to adopt the handbook that was read out at the last board meeting. Somebody make a motion?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second it.
So the one that was read out at the last board meeting, if I'm not mistaken, was Vasquez High School. Was it Vasquez?
It was.
No.
It was in High Desert?
High Desert.
So High Desert, and then the board graciously allowed us to bring forward the high school and the elementary school tonight as a read and approval. So, were there any significant changes to High Desert?
No.
Do you remember I asked that it be made very clear that if there are constraints of your grade point average stopping you from competing, that it would say that in the handbook and we wouldn't dump that off onto the coach and then have the parents attack the coach at the beginning of the year?
Yes, sir, I do recall that.
Okay, so I would like that very much. I guess if you put a sticker in it or something, if they've already been to the printer. I will make this comment here. I think that we could have some market improvement in how dates and events are communicated both at the site calendars, at the site pages, and on the district webpage. But other than that, I've looked these over and they're good to go.
Call the question.
Aye.
Meadowlark School Handbook, item 11.2 for the 2019-2020 draft. 2019-2020. All right, and I'll open this. Second?
Second.
Okay. Read and then the adoption.
point out, was there any substantive changes made to this one?
Yes, some of the antiquated language has been removed. We do plan that if there is a need for additional changes to bring it forth at the start of the new school year, but nothing significant.
Okay.
It looks to me like this is ready to go to print.
Call the question?
Aye.
Eleven point oh three, Vasquez High School Scholar Handbook, 2019-2020 draft. I'll make the motion.
Second.
Oh, okay, Tim. In a likewise fashion, I'll ask, are there any substantive changes to last year's handbook?
No, sir.
Any questions? Okay, call the question. Aye. 11.04, Agreement for Professional Development Services, California Reading and Literature Project. Motion to open this? Anyone?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Mr. King?
So, this, as you recall, per the collective bargaining agreement with the teachers, we have a contract language that stipulates we're to have a professional development council. So I'm happy to say that that council's been working well. I believe Dr. Bice is the, if I'm not mistaken, Dr.
That's correct,
she's
sir.
chairing that council, but it, per the contract language, cannot have more than 3 administrators on it and 3 teachers on it. But the group has been working really well together, and this piece here is a result of that group working together and recommended to cabinet, and now we're recommending to the board the adoption of this particular contract, which will be essentially what our professional development days will be based on.
Any questions? Call the question?
Aye.
12.01, under Business Services, Bond Measure Presentation. This is a presentation only. Okay.
So I'm going to introduce Jason List. He is with ISOM, and we have some members of the committee from the last bond effort that are here in the audience this evening, but there's 2 pieces to the bond. So when the bond does not pass, as ours did not in November, you have the ability to seek hardship funding that may become available to the district in March of 2020. In addition to that, we have the ability, pending the availability of bond funds again, to seek another general obligation bond effort. So we can use 2 different consulting firms or organizations to do those 2 pieces. So Jason List is here tonight to talk about going out for another bond effort in the next school year. We're way ahead of the timeline curve that we were at the last go-around. I'm happy. I've met with Jason a couple of times. I met him at a conference earlier this year. Ms. David was already familiar with the company as well as their work. And with that, I will turn it over to Jason List, so he's here to present, and then if you have any questions for him, we'd be happy to entertain those.
Great. Thanks, everyone, for your time tonight. Again, my name is Jason List with ISOM Advisors. Before we jump to the presentation, just real quick about me. I have 3 kids at house, 6, 4, and 3.5 months. And I mentioned a 3.5-month-year-old, so if I'm a little sleepy, that's why. She's been keeping us up at night. My professional career myself, I've been in this line of work for 18 years. First 2 years doing asset management for school districts in the state of Ohio. The next 8 working as a banker in Indiana, Kentucky, and Ohio. And the last 8 out here in California, and I plan to stay here in California. But my firm, we're located in a few different spots. I'm in the Tustin office. So about an hour and a half, 45-minute drive from my office to here. Our firm is what's known as a full-service financial advisory firm, and all that really means is we're with our school district clients every step of the way. And if that means a survey to test the voter sentiment of bond issuance with the district residents, We start there, we run the bond campaign, and upon a successful election, we are the financial advisor to get bonds to the market, to get this proceeds so you can build your facilities. Our firm, over the last, since inception, essentially since 2011, we've won more bond elections than our nearest competitors by a pretty good margin, and more bond sales than our nearest competitors. The bottom of the page, here you see on page 3, this is some of the districts that we work with in the county. I also work with the COC here, the College of the Canyons. So very familiar with the county itself, very familiar with the politics, working with the county treasurers, county auditor's office, and all that entails. The first part of the presentation, I'm going to go rather quickly about our firm. I'm going to spend a slow down, spend a lot more time about your district. But anywhere along the way, I know you don't look at this type of stuff all the time. So if you want to stop and ask me questions, I do intend this to be more of a discussion than a presentation. On slide 4 is just a snapshot of our last 2 election cycles. So 73 wins in 2016. I was out of 75. In 2018, the last gubernatorial, we were 56 out of 63. The state average on a presidential year is about 86%. Our last go around, we were high 90s. Just to give you some context of our firm relative to the other firms. On slide 5, this just shows our, see the screen here, it shows our number of bond sales over the last 6 years. And the reason this is important, it's not important for the win election, but we sell more bonds in the market than anyone else, which gives us real insight and essentially market movers for our school clients, which at the end of the day entails better pricing, lower interest rates for your community once you sell the bonds. Moving on to slide 6, this is all of our districts that we work with have won elections in 2018. And the idea here is not to go over every single school district, but to highlight, we work in, yes, some liberal communities, but we also work in some very conservative communities. And when we run our campaigns, what I always say, if you look at the diversity of the counties, is that when we run our campaigns, it's not us running the campaign. We work with a campaign group, and a campaign should sound and look like your local community. You're going to speak to your community different than you are going to be to someone down near, closer to the city of LA or up in the Bay Area. Your bond campaign should speak, should reach out in a lot of different ways to the values of your community. And I think we do a pretty good job with ushering that line, or infusing that line of thought into our various campaigns throughout the state. Page 7 is a little bit the same, just more names, more counties to look at for the 2016 election cycle. Now at this point, I am going to slow way down because this is more directly about you. And some of this stuff you might recall from the last bond election cycle, but I think it's good to kind of recap and go over this type of information again. So on slide 9, this is your district's assessed valuation history. And all assessed valuation means is taxable property within your district boundaries. And assessed valuation for a bond program is very, very important. So the first box you see here, this is your 11-year assessed valuation history. So leading up to the Great Recession, much like many school districts throughout the state, you had some pretty good growth. The Great Recession hit, property values declined, you had a decline in your tax base. Now since that time, you've come out of the recession from a property tax valuation standpoint at a pretty good pace. And I know in this county, the county assessor's office, they're saying right now they expect anything around 4.5% to 5% over the next year, 2 years. And that's definitely area by area, region by region, but in general across the county, that's what the county is expecting. The box to your right, as you are aware, that this district did pass a $13 million bond in 2008 at 55.76%, which was just right over that necessary 55% threshold, which is the Prop 39 bond election. The main reasons that this page is really important is when you're considering a new bond program, you have to project out how you may grow in the future. And I always tell school district boards it's best to be conservative enough. And the reason I say that is when you sell bonds, you have to project out how you may grow in the future. And if you're not conservative enough and you sell bonds against future valuation that you don't meet, that whatever tax rate that you pledge to your community could be something different. And the example would be, let's say that we decide 5% growth year over year is the right growth for you. When we sell bonds gets that 5% growth at, let's pick a tax rate, at a $10 tax rate. And let's say in year 2, you didn't grow at 5%, you grow at 3.5%. Well, that $10 tax rate all of a sudden becomes $10.50. And if it compounds from there, $11, $11.50, so on and so on. Legally, that's okay because the county is required to collect whatever taxes are necessary to pay bondholders. Politically, it's not so good. If you commit a tax rate to your public, we should be conservative enough to make sure that we keep that tax rate going forward. That's more of a, again, a political standpoint that you want to make, a promise you want to keep the trust as a school district board with your public. The other reason this page is important, it's essentially your calculator on what you can get from a bond election. The second bullet point down addresses that. And the calculation is pretty straightforward. You take your most current year assessed valuation at a little over $2 billion. As a unified district, you multiply that by 2.5%, which gives you a gross bonding capacity currently of $51.2 million. You then have to deduct any principal amount of debt you have currently outstanding, and that's $11 million. In August, that'll be a little less because every August principal rolls off for your district, which gives you a net bonding capacity currently of $40.2 million. As your tax base grows and as debt falls off, the factors will change and you'll have more taxing capacity. Now, the bigger question is, do you need that? Can you actually afford that amount? And that's addressed on the next page. Let's look at that. What I have here are total bond proceeds at various tax rates. And I first started with an amount similar to what you discussed in your district's past recent history and the bond amount that you tried for. So the first at $4 million to $7.5 million, at $7.50 and $14.25 respectively. And that's $7.50 per $100,000 in assessed valuation on an annual basis. So if your home is valued at $100,000, that's $750 a year. If it's $200,000, that's $15 a year, so on and so on. Now you as a unified district, you can go up to a full $60, which would equate to $37.6 million. That goes back to the question, is that something you need? And more importantly, is that something voters would pass? What I always recommend to districts like yours is that if you're going to try a bond election, pass the bond or ask the question at the lowest tax rate possible, yet still achieving your project goals that you want to hit. And there's a way that we can, scientific measure that we can come with to help you determine what that number is. And that we'll talk more about it towards the end of the presentation. That's via a survey. So on our surveys, we ask a lot of questions. We ask questions about voter attitudes, about the district superintendent, about the principals, about the teachers, about the board, just to get a very base feeling of how do voters feel about you as an organization. We then go on to ask some value questions. Do you feel new schools or modernized schools increase property values? How do you feel education is going in the state, education in your community? And then we get on to some of the main questions, that being projects, because voters are for projects by and large more than anything else. If you have good projects, that's a better starting point certainly than if you have bad projects or projects that your voters don't like. We also then ask the tax question. And we generally ask 3 different tax rates, and it's very intuitive. The highest tax rate that you ask for will receive the lowest yes feedback. The lower you go, the more support you'll get. And what we look for is a balance, and the balance mainly between projects. How well did your projects test versus how well did your tax rates test? And what is the variance between the lowest tax rate tested and the highest tax rate tested? And from there, we can help you make a decision that your community wants X projects, which cost X millions of dollars, which equates to a certain tax rate. So that's some of the usefulness of the survey. You can certainly do a bond program, a bond election without it, and we have to rely more on direct public feedback, but it does take away that first kind of scientific step of the survey. The other point of the survey that I've unfortunately had to share with boards at various times throughout the last 8 years in California, it's a good decision maker to either do a bond or not do a bond, or not do a bond yet, maybe do a bond later. You don't want to go into a bond campaign, spend a bunch of time, a of, not district resources, but at times, off hours personal resources, if you're not gonna win. And I would be the first person to tell you to either go forward with the bond, or more importantly, not go forward with the bond, because of the way that our contractual obligations work with school districts, and that is only if you're successful. So if we go through the survey and you're successful, we can say this is great, good first step, let's move on to the next step. If we don't believe that you're not gonna be successful, we're gonna tell you, because again, only the way that our company is compensated is if not only you pass the bond measure, but you sell bonds from the successful bond measure. So it's a way to align our business interests with yours, so to speak. So this is a lot of data here that you see on the page. And again, it's not to suggest you should do a $60 bond, because I don't think you should. Based on my reading and based on conversations from the last election cycle, I do think it, for your district, is a balance of what the district perceives as your needs, along the same lines of what tax rate your district would support. Slide 12, voter demographics. So, surprise, you are conservative. Not the most conservative school district that I've ever worked with, but certainly conservative demographics. You have nearly 8,400 registered voters. Majority are Republicans at 54%, 25% Democrat, 21% others. Now the others, sometimes it is Green Party Libertarians, but more likely than not, it's decline to state people, but the decline to state people generally follow the predominant party lines within school district boundaries. Nearly or over half of your voters vote by mail, and you have a mature voting population at 55 and older. And all these definitely do suggest more conservative demographics than not. And again, which pushes me back to the point that you should shoot for the lower tax rate that still accomplishes the projects that are needed. On to slide 13. This is your district's voter turnout. So as high as 69% in November 16, because people came out to vote very passionately for or against one of the candidates. The last gubernatorial in November of 18, 67%, which was a pretty good turnout. Your last presidential primary was at 40%. I think this primary marched because of the Democratic excitement that should be there. You're going to have every Democrat, there's I think 10 more Democrats on stage tonight vying for that seat, as it was last night. And in the state, you have Kamala Harris running for that position. So in California, I think the March was moved to March. I think the March primary will be heavily attended. So I think probably greater.
Will be heavily what?
Attended. So I think a lot of Democrats will push out the vote. So I think it will have a higher percentage turnout than you did last presidential primary. But I also think the same is true for the presidential, because again, you're going to have those same factors. People really coming out to passionately support one of the two candidates. And the question I often get is, well, what does this mean for us? What should we go? And the answer is, it really all depends. It depends when you're ready as a community. It depends when you're ready as a board, administration, and a community. Maybe that's March, but maybe not. And my gut feeling, and it's just a gut feeling without any other data tonight, is that I think you may need more time to prepare. So probably November of 20 would give your district the better chance. Again, I think more prep time that you have, laying the groundwork with various community members, I think that would increase the likelihood of success. And we'll talk about a timeline here in just a second. The last page. So this is this runs the gamut of March and November, but I think for now, you can always adjust later, just focus on November. Prepare a project list, and I have ongoing, and I do think this is generally true, is that projects lists do change throughout the course of campaign cycles, based on feedback that you'll get over the cycle. A board meeting to explore feasibility of a tax measure. I have in August, that's essentially tonight, and again, it's not the board saying, yes, we're going forward for the bond measure. This is just me to re-explain some of the variables within the campaign, and then for you as a board administration at some point later discuss, is this something that we want to do, and if so, when? conduct a survey, the survey that I mentioned, sometime in November. It could be later, it could be a little earlier, but given a traditional timeline for November of 2020, about a year out would be about right. And what I should say also about this timeline is that it can be sped up, it can be slowed down. Your ultimate deadline is the filing deadline, which is 89 days prior to the election. So you have quite a bit of prep time to go for, but that's your only true deadline. The survey that we do, I didn't mention this, is that we do it at cost. It truly is a loss leader for us. What I mean by at cost is we write all the questions, we get sign off from the board, from administration. After we get all the results, we compile the data, put into a nice presentation to share with you. The cost is a call center that we pay in San Diego called Competitive Edge. And we pay them for their time. And the survey that we run, there's two different types. There's the full gamut type, and the full gamut type is reaching out to 400 registered voters in your community that make up the like demographic of your community. So if you're 50% Republican, at least you're Republicans, 25% Democrats, 25% other. We also get the age categories. If you're 10% 18 to 24, we make sure we get that bucket. Getting those 400 voter responses in all those buckets gives us a margin of error on our survey of about plus or minus 4.5%. That is done at cost, and that over the last election cycle, that cost was around $6,000, and we said a not to exceed. And it's very transparent. You have the invoice. Whatever the call center charges you, that's what the charge is to the district. The second type of survey that we do is what's called a voter ID survey. Same questions are asked, but the voter ID survey, the calling company is not going to reach all 400 of like demographic. They're gonna go through a calling period over 3 days and get as many calls as they can, blindly, not in regard to age or political identity. And that survey cost is around $2,500 or so.
Does that one still just go getting to 400 or as many calls they get?
As many calls they can get, and it's likely not going to get to 400. 400 one usually takes a couple to a few weeks, and the margin of error on that is definitely a lot higher, just by the nature of it. And that survey, it's still good feedback because you get community feedback, but it gives you a good sense of what your community is feeling. And I would never ever say that it's scientific in any way, shape, or form. But it is cheaper, and it does give your community an opportunity to provide feedback to you. Moving down to spring of 2020, initiate public information program. And what I might mean by that for your community is talking to key stakeholders or influencers in your community. And you likely know who those people are. If not, reach out to other advocates to reach out to those people to see if a bond campaign at various tax costs, various projects is something they would even support. It's important to get these influencers on early because they can really make or break an election. And the survey that I talked about is as good as it is for that particular point in time when you take the survey. I've had campaigns, unfortunately. I work with the school district down in San Diego County. We did a survey, and I told the board the same thing. The results came back. They were right around 60%, but I knew they had opposition. I didn't know how influential opposition would ultimately be. They were funded. They sent out mailers of their own. They put up no signs all over town. And I told that board that night, if you have funded, well-run opposition, take the survey and drop it by about 5 to 10 points. And that's exactly what happened over the life of the campaign. So the survey is good data, but it's a long way saying the second piece, this information program, reaching out to the influencers is just as important, especially in conservative communities like yours. So after that, all that outreach, the survey, if you want to do it, and the public information program, you're going to finalize your capital plan and financing plan based on that feedback. And what that means is you'll get feedback about projects and about tax rates. And once we know what the sweet spot of those two things are, we can recommend a financing plan to you, meaning tax rates, how long the payback period is, what projects you can expect to accomplish with the bond proceeds that you would get. From there, between myself and legal counsel, we work on preparing a resolution, tax rate statement, everything that is needed to get sent to the county registrar's office so that you're officially on the ballot. Same process that you went through the last time. From there, in August, we would submit that resolution to the registrar's office, prepare the argument in favor. If someone prepares an argument against you, we would prepare a counter argument as restating our position. And then sometime in August, I have August, but I think for your district, I think you probably need a little more time, so probably form that campaign committee earlier than August. Not doing the full marketing, the full mailing, phone banking, all that in August, but getting everybody engaged and prepped, so once we do start the true campaigning, that we're laser focused and hit all the right points that we want to hit throughout the campaign. So after all that, keep your fingers crossed on that November 3rd date and hope for an election win. And after an election win, it's a whole other bond financing timeline process. I went over that pretty quick without any questions, or too many questions, so I'd be happy to take any questions.
I have a suggestion for my fellow board members. We do have a customer comment card on this item, and I figured before, customer. It is a customer, it's a constituent comment card, so I figured let the presentation go, bring up the constituent comment for the 3 minutes, and then we'll have you return for board member Q&A. So, Ms. Holland, if you'd like to speak, remember it's a statement, it's not Q&A. And 3 minutes. And of course, your name for the record.
D. Holland. Okay, last bond. Tim, you weren't here for this, but the rest of them, this is a broken record for them. We told you, I told you several times that 10 years ago, people said, if we pass that bond, you're going to ask for another one for all this extra stuff. And I told you, it won't pass. And Mike's comment was, we can't worry about what people said 10 years ago. Well, the bond failure proved exactly what I was saying. Remember what Larry Layton said, itty bitty bond. The community does not care about you being good stewards of money, as Mike always says. We're interested in what needs to be done, what has to be done, not what we'd like to have done. That's what you need to consider for this bond. Otherwise, it's going to not pass, just like it didn't pass. We made it very clear, no extras. And I'm glad that I was able to come after this young man's presentation. Remember, 53% of your voting public is on fixed income. You need 55% to pass a bond. That 53% isn't going to support all your extras. And those other little kids aren't going to be able to pony up the money. Keep your focus on what we need, which is this campus. I think that's it.
Thank you, Ms. Holland. Thank you. So I have a question or comment to share with my, you want to go in order?
Sure,
go ahead.
No, go ahead, it's fine.
Oh, okay. I was going to point out that of the two timelines, it just kind of felt like to me that the March would be rushed. I'm not sure there's much value in rushing it. Yeah. And what's that?
We agreed, staff agreed.
Oh, okay. And frankly, I like the idea of the scientific survey because that's expressly what it's supposed to do, because we did miss the mark last time. And so this will provide that kind of feedback and that sensitivity analysis that maybe help us pick a better spot.
Right.
Which frankly goes right to Ms. Holland's comments.
Right.
I mean, I think that is the first step before we get ahead of ourselves. Find out what the pulse is scientifically in the community. So that's why I'm
agree with
actually
everything you're
supportive
saying.
of
In fact, I made a note to
the
myself
study.
that I would prefer November because it was a little rushed last time. I like your presentation very much. I thought it was very easy to understand, and I do like the survey idea. You'll be able to lead us instead of just giving us options and asking us to kind of choose.
step up because we actually do have a project list. It should be refreshed, but it's not that old and things didn't change that much like this school. So, you know, or the setback would all say or what have you.
Clarification, I show you, that survey is the one, was the 400, right?
Correct.
That's the one you're referring to?
I think so.
Yeah.
You know, in the greater scheme of things.
Not the one where they do the calls in 3 days.
No,
but,
I mean,
yeah.
for me anyway, in the greater scheme of things, the $4,000, which I know, we're very careful with everyone's money. But once you commit to a campaign, there's just people's salaries and attention that is spent on it. And so the $4,000 is not a significant amount differential for me to not do the scientific survey. So write the card if you want.
It's just a simple question.
Well, you gotta do a card.
Thank you.
So, that's why I would suggest, you know, the difference is 6,500, 2,500 sounds like a lot, but I think the scientific survey going to who the voters are, sampling the voters is probably the best way to do it before all the emotional and time capital is invested in the second time. That's me, that's where I'm at.
And with a small town, we do want to get everyone's voice as much as possible.
What I'm seeing here, my understanding of this is the percentages you're looking at the different voter groups, not targeting the ones that you think are gonna say yes. Is that accurate?
That's 100% accurate.
Okay, here's a couple things I want to say. I looked at a project list last time. I agreed that the project list needed to be done. That's what I voted on. I voted on a project list. I didn't vote on my emotions. There's been no massive influx of free work since the last one. I haven't seen anywhere. I haven't seen Carpentier or anybody bum rushing our door to pave everything and paint everything.
Oh, wait a minute.
Excuse me, I'm speaking now.
I understand.
Yeah, you can speak.
But
You'll speak. But that said, there are efforts being made right now to maintain what needs to be maintained over the summer projects. We heard that tonight. So I need everybody to understand that this is not a means of propping up a candidacy. It's not a means of attracting income to a 501c3 site. What this is this board expecting that staff will put a project list together that anyone can go out and look at and see and say this either needs to be done or it does not, and then putting that package out to the vote of the public. It's not my job to sit up here and propel the bond or sink the bond. It is my job to put a bond package out, if that's what the input from the community says to do, to an educated public who are adults and are fully capable of making a decision, just like they did the last time. The last bond was not a failure. More people voted not to have it than did. And in that, it was a success. The community spoke. Perfect.
Is there any, we do have one comment card from somebody who hasn't spoken tonight. Is there any? Okay, so I think, barring a change from Mr.
I didn't know this was gonna be on.
You're fine, you're fine. What I'm trying to summarize is where we are at this point is telling staff we're interested in pursuing the slower timeline, inclusive of the full survey, and that's where we're leaning. I am going to.
Oh yeah, one more thing, time frame. I don't see that we would push this through as quick as next March. That doesn't make any sense. The last thing I want to do is push something.
I'm gonna reckon, if you might, I think we're actually done with our Q&A. Thank you, you've done an excellent job. I think you and the staff have heard the consensus of the board. I do want to give Mr. Mann an opportunity to come up and make a statement. It's not a Q&A. 3 minutes.
I'm sorry, my name's Anthony. Anthony, man, basically what he's telling us is for $6,000, what was the percentage rate? For $6,000 for the phone survey?
It's the margin of error, plus or minus 4.5%.
4.5%. He's gonna tell us for $6,000 whether or not we can pass a bond.
And not just that though, but it's a sensitivity analysis of the value proposition of different items versus the cost. And maybe that's where we missed the mark last time.
Exactly. I agree, 100%. For $6,000 for them to do all of this work, instead of putting out 1,000 posters and town hall meetings, we quit beating around the bush and he can find out the answers pretty quick.
I agree.
Thank you.
And a point of clarification, when the study is done, the results of that study are blatantly made to the public, is that correct? Openly
Yes.
made to the
Yes.
public. What the frequency distribution of the responses were, whatever the questions were, that's open to the public.
Absolutely. There'll be a board meeting just like this.
Perfect.
So just a point of clarification, Mr. Fox. So it sounds like we have consensus, if you will, to move ahead with ISOM. We'll bring that back as a consultant contract agreement in the fall, Ms. Davis?
It's under the $10,000 superintendent threshold, but do you feel you want to actually take the action to approve the agreement because it's a bond survey, and I'm okay either way?
Well, again, I want it to be reflective of the individual percentages of people.
It will.
The people that are likely to say no, the people that are likely to vote one way or another, I want that captured. And I want the outcome of this expense to be presented to the public for open, transparent, and intelligent discussion. After that, then decisions are made.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
Okay.
what you're hearing is we don't need to vote to expend the
Good.
$6,500.
Perfect.
It's within your purview of the $10,000 or
Yeah.
$15,000 limit.
You won't let me speak.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So we're gonna move on to 12. Ms. Holland has spoken once and has already submitted a card on this.
Well, I lit her up, so maybe she's got something to say.
Yes. As far as no free labor, the only reason you haven't had that is because I asked over and over and over again what we can do free.
Okay, thank you.
And I've been stonewalled.
Thank
They
you.
have said they won't give me okay. They won't tell me what we can do.
12.02, we're moving on to the Education Protection Act spending plan. And I'll make the motion to move this in.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Jason.
And is there a second?
Okay, the Education Protection Account spending plan is something that we bring annually to the board. It is a subset of LCFF. It's something that was created to help prevent a crisis before. So, when we had the budget crisis. So, every year we bring it. Historically, it has always been used for teacher salaries. If you look on the actual document, it says things that the funds can be expended on include instruction-related services, pupil services, community services, plant services, meaning maintenance, other outgo, and then we need to publish that, and that's how we do it, by including it in the board agenda. So we have historically, as a district, included it for instruction. So because it's included in LCFF as a subset of it, we do disclose that we use it, and our funds for next year are projected to be approximately $1.4 million of EPA funds that will be used for teachers, or actually certificated salaries, but not administrator salaries. So that is one thing that of the things you can use it for, what you cannot use it for is administrator salaries.
So in the budget presentation we had last week, and the one we're about to adopt, or anything, there's a certain amount of LCFF funding. This is a subset of that funding?
Correct.
And it's a subset of that funding that has some strings attached as to how it gets spent. And so we're making sure that that subset that has the strings is being spent consistent with those regs.
Right, when the legislation was passed, the idea was that because it's education protection account, it's things that would benefit students in the end, even if it was through good facilities. Most districts do use it for, certificated staffing.
Those were my questions. She was actually ready for them because I emailed them in. Does anyone have any questions about what this procedurally is? Okay, thank you, Ms. Davis. Call the question?
Aye.
Aye. That's a 4-0-1. 12.03, consolidated application, otherwise known as the CONAP, for the 2019-2020 school year for funding categorical programs. I'll move it in.
Second.
again, another procedural piece. It's something that we do every year. Internally, we call it CONAP, because otherwise it's sort of long. But again, this is something that we do every year, and it's required to bring to board and be approved. It covers basically we're applying to continue to get state funds because districts are eligible for it, and there are a rare few districts that say we don't want the funds because there's strings attached to them. We of course do like to have those funds because they're for specific services or support services. We get Title I funding that benefits Meadowlark and High Desert. Vasquez is not eligible for Title I because the poverty rate defined as the percentage of students that are eligible for free or reduced lunch. At the high school, the rate is lower than the district-wide average. So Meadowlark is a school-wide because they're over 40% and went through a process at some point in time, which means that those funds can be used to close the achievement gap in math and reading for all the students because there's a high enough percentage that it benefits all of them. High Desert is targeted assistance, so even though the funds are generated by free and reduced lunch calculations, the students that are eligible to receive services are students who are at risk of failure. And in this district, that's defined as performing at the standard not met level in math or reading. So annually, for targeted assistance, so at High Desert, we annually assess which students are eligible for services. So it could be things like intervention, extra support. So that's Title I. Title II is teacher professional or certificated professional development. We apply for those. Title III, we are eligible for English learner funding, about $14,000. We use that for support services of our aid. We are not eligible for immigrant funding because any district that falls under $10,000 in eligible funding, and an immigrant is defined as a student who's been in the United States 3 full years or less. We have so few that we would get less than $10,000. We have part of a consortium. And we do actually also apply for Title IV, which is, we can use it in various ways. We kind of use it to support our technology, like Q Conference and having teachers trained to provide support systems and instruction through technology. So we do have to apply. We need your approval on this, if we may, and then we will be eligible for that funding for the next year.
So to summarize this is basically the board verifying that they'll take staff's recommendations tied to LCAP to spend the categorical funding where it's supposed to be spent on like Title I, SPED, all that. That's
Yeah.
a yes or no?
Yes, in the federal addendum that we brought
So
last
we're not giving the administrators raises and stuff like this out of this. This is what this is for, and we're verifying that you'll spend it that way as is tied to the LCAP.
The federal addendum of the LCAP, yes.
Okay.
So I get it. It's an application for those dollars we do every year, and this is for obviously then federal dollars.
Federal dollars with strings attached.
With strings attached.
Yep.
Subject to the addendum that we're going to approve when we
Yep.
approve the LCAP with its addendum.
Yes, and this is the first year that the federal addendum has been required, but there's always been requirements.
Now, when we see the budget, I can't remember, even though I saw it 2 weeks ago, is federal funding on a separate line? Separate than
It's in the
LCFF?
restricted column.
It's in the restricted.
So they're in the Form 01, you have one that's a summary of the two, unrestricted and restricted.
It's
You have one
restricted.
form that's unrestricted and one that's restricted. So when you look, you'll see it under federal restricted.
Okay, so
So-
this is the application to get those dollars that I see in the budget.
Yes.
So to burn time while Tim's out and waiting for him to come back and vote.
Sorry, something just flew
This
on me.
used to be the Title I stuff that if you didn't meet your program improvement target, you were put into program improvement. Those are the strings we're talking about, so if you don't have to need the money, then you would worry about that.
That's true. There is a district not too far from here. I don't know what they do now, but as recently as maybe 5 or 6 years ago, they declined all federal funding because they didn't want to have to engage in the assurances.
So if you're a basic aid district where your tax dollars exceed anything that people would give you, you would probably not want this.
You might not.
Yeah.
You might not.
I'm familiar with one of those.
Are you really?
Well,
Yes.
we're gonna give Mr. Jorgensen a minute to come back. I'm gonna go grab a cup of coffee.
That's fine.
2-minute recess. 12.04, the adoption of the local control accountability plan for the 2017-18 through 2019-2020 school year. It's a 3-year plan. I'll make the motion.
Second.
Tim Jorgensen.
I mean, you've heard it, unless you have further questions or clarification.
I forgot everything.
Okay. Call the question? Aye. Thank you. I couldn't remember 2 weeks apart. We got 401. Okay. 12.05 is the adoption of the 2019 and 2020 budget. I'll move this in.
I'll second.
Okay. I also remember it from 2 weeks ago. Does anyone have any questions or?
I remember the significant portion of our revenue is from charter schools, I remember that.
That's true. It was like you can just
Okay.
for 1 minute put our pots of money for us because our pots of money.
No, I just remember that, I just didn't see it
Oh,
noted.
it's okay.
I didn't see it noted anywhere.
But Mr. Paulscraft, you would see, you can see our pots of money.
Is that Frosted Lucky Charms?
It is. It's our good luck. But,
Is there more?
that was just, no, the only thing is like, to respond to this question, if you can go to the one that shows our revenues, you can actually, that will clarify the amount of revenue that we do get from charter schools. You know, in case anybody does have a question about it, but it's what there was last year, so, or last time. So, again, we are going to be able to project a positive certification. So.
Since it's back up there again, is there one of these charts that shows the funding that's associated with the CONAP? You remember you said it was restricted federal, or is that not on this level of form?
If you look on this is actually the revenue summary, see where it says federal? That may also, I'd have to go back and look specifically to tell you exactly how much, but the CONAP would be in there. There is also some SPED funding. There is some other federal funding.
It's not the CONAP associated.
Right.
But the CONAP is a part of that funding.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'm just trying to tie that application to the.
Yeah, there is some special education funding. Off the top of my head, I would say Title I, I think is about $170,000. Title III is about, I think about 15,000, 14,000. Title II is approximately 33,000. And Title IV is just budget dust, but every little bit counts.
Sure. Okay, that's all I had.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay, call the question.
Aye.
Aye. And now we're at future agenda items 13.01. Mr. King?
So we will come back to you on August 22nd with the options for filling the board seat vacancy. There's some timelines and
August
22nd. Correct.
Will be just a discussion and then we have time to think or do we make a decision on that?
Yeah, if we bring them the options, is it it's a two meeting process, isn't it? Our call from last night. They hear the options. We'll get clarification, but just my recollection from last time, I think there was a informational piece to hear what the options are, and then a second piece.
Don't you have 60 days from the date of the resignation to fill it? Or to decide, I think the county wants you to have it done within 60 days, either to call for a special election or make a provisional appointment. I think it's a 60-day timeline. I know because Westside is doing the same thing, they had a board member.
We will keep our district in compliance.
Having said.
Thank you, Julie.
Sorry.
No. I mean, I definitely recall that. I can't remember what the 60-day clock was reflective of.
I believe it's like, it starts when the date of the, so it starts June 30th.
That's right. If that's the case, then what I was saying on, exactly. If you need to call us in for a special board meeting so that we can comply with this timeline rules, by all means.
Check with legal, I don't think ours is asleep. Thank you, Julie.
All right. So barring anything like that, the typical routine, if I recall, been there a couple times, is we make the presentation, there's, here's when it would go on the vote, here's how much the election would cost approximately, and then we choose between having a special election or an appointed position.
Correct.
And when you ask these questions to make sure the timeline works, you also have to make sure that if you need to call us in before August 22nd to have that discussion so that we're not rushed to have the discussion and vote that night, same night on the same thing, that would be better. I'd rather have us come in for special, discuss it, if we need to for timeline, and then come back 2 weeks later, approximately, to vote on one path.
I agree, no,
Okay.
we'll make sure we do that.
Important. Thank you. And anything else on future agenda items?
Not at this time.
Okay. All right. That was item 13. Item 14, August 22nd, barring any special, that's when we'll resume our regular board meetings, August 22nd, 2019. Item 15, in closed session, the board did take action. We unanimously approved a staff recommendation regarding a settlement agreement on a student matter. So there you go. And that vote was, do I need to have a motion to accept that report or
No, you already stated
record
it's
the vote
unanimous.
that was at the time? Okay, 4.01, 401 was the vote. All right, and I made the motion in there. Do you remember who seconded? It was Tim, in there, okay. And Tim seconded, and as we said, it was a 401 vote. Okay, that brings us to adjournment. And do I have a motion to adjourn? A second?
Second.
Okay, call the question?
Aye.
Aye. So we are officially adjourned at 9:38. Have a good